that explains their apparent lack of judgment. We'll start with Mike's story. Mike describes his parents' marriage as miserable. They couldn't see past their own pain long enough to care for their only child. Mike's mother drowned her sorrows in alcohol. She typically started drinking cheap wine around 3 in the afternoon, probably to cushion the discomfort of Mike's father returning home from work later in the day. Mike's father used work the same way his mother used alcohol. It was his escape from a miserable home life. As an auto mechanic, he found comfort and camaraderie at the shop. He would sometimes return home around 5 o'clock. Sometimes he worked as late as 9 o'clock. Between his mother's drinking and his father's unpredictable schedule, not to mention the inevitable arguments each evening, dinners were unreliable at best. Young Mike often had to fend for himself, relying on peanut butter sandwiches he would eat alone in his bedroom. As Mike entered his teen years, an uncle and his family moved to town. He started eating meals with them and spending as much time as possible at their house. Anything to avoid the freak show at home, he told me. Though his uncle's family was mostly welcoming, Mike always felt like an outsider who needed to earn his place. He became service-oriented, almost obsequious, in a bid to remain in their good graces. He remembers washing dishes after meals, buying video games to play with his cousins, and helping his uncle with yard work. He began to believe people would only want him around if he was working to please them. In college, Mike was the guy who always cleaned up after roommates and always brought the pony keg to the party. With women, he spent most of his time in the friend zone because he was so overly attentive that they viewed him as needy and spineless. Mike was easily taken advantage of by men and women alike. Enter Sarah, who had a similar history. She was also neglected by her parents, but for a different reason. They were preoccupied with chronic money problems and low-grade drama amongst friends and coworkers. Sarah also had to compete with her sister for their parents' meager time and resources. Sarah was in a kind of limbo, too young to be taken seriously by her sisters, too old to be attended by her parents. Unlike Mike, who learned to attract affection through acts of service, Sarah learned how to gain her parents' attention by way of tantrums. Her parents would resist the tantrums for a while, but they were usually too exhausted and preoccupied to hold out for long.